Perfect fuel, those things that we all need for this wonderfully made body to operate at this maximum potential. You also talked about health inhibitors or suppressors, right? And it seems to me that before we can actually utilize that perfect fuel that you was talked about, that we probably need to be cleaned out first before we start taking in all this good stuff. So my question is, what is your recommendation or thoughts about detoxing or cleansing of the body before we consume this perfect fuel?
All right. Now, I made an illustration or one presentation I did that, you know how it is, people are so it's very difficult for them to make changes, to change what they've been used to doing. Now, I made an illustration that think about this jar, that the water that started clean and you put a lot of dyes or contaminated water in it, it gets contaminated, right? Now, if you just simply, although the water inside the jar is dirty, if you just simply start putting clean water, keep pouring on it, it overflows. If you just let it overflow, you did not do anything to change the water, keep pouring clean water on it. Keep pouring on it. What would happen to the water inside? Yes. Okay. So it helps, and I recommend detox. But for people who really doesn't have time, you can just as simply as start eating correctly now, the perfect food. Don't worry about detoxing, because the body, again, it does the healing. It has the capability to get rid of anything that is polluting it, okay? But because by just eating this perfect fuel, the whole foods plant-based diet, you start eating the right kind of food, it flushes out what you have. Now, it's different when your body has already succumbed to diseases, okay? So you really need to go through some regimen of detoxification. And there are several that you can get into, okay? So that's another topic as well. And there's so many out there, and also you just have to be very careful in selecting which one, because you can subject your body into, you have what they call it, if you're addicted to some drugs, withdrawal symptoms or something like that. So my advice in my program is that don't worry about it, just start eating healthy. Start eating healthy. And you stop eating the wrong kind of foods. You don't have that coming in anymore. You put in the right kind of food, and would eventually just flush out the old things. And again, if you are really already had succumbed to some type of disease, then you really need to do some detoxification process. You're welcome. All right. Are we going to start now? Any other question? Well, we're going to review a little bit anyway. Just like what Pastor already mentioned, it's really very important for us to know our body. We only have one, so we have to take care of it. And Pastor Doug Batchelor even said that we have to trade this in for a new body. God will give us a new body, right? 1 Corinthians promise. In the twinkling of an eye, we'll all be changed. And sadly, there are even people that made it an excuse. And hey, why do I need to take care of this body? It's just going to change anyway, right? Have you heard of people saying like that? It's just God will just replace this body anyway. But the thing is, you may not get to that point if you have not taken your body, taken care of your body now, leading to that day. You may not get it. You may not make it to that point. You may not make it there that Jesus was going to change your body into an incorruptible one. So it's very important for us to listen to our body. When you have some symptoms, do not suppress the symptoms. Instead, find out what's wrong, because your symptoms and your pains are your body's way of saying, hey, something's wrong inside. So we are wonderfully made, fearfully made. So we are now aware that the human body is an amazing autonomous living machine. It can take care of itself. And I shared that the three things that the body needs: it needs sustenance, it needs to eat. Who can provide that? That's our responsibility, right? But then the body needs time to heal. Who can do that? Our job is just to step back and allow our body to heal. It can do it. The drugs doesn't heal the body. It's the body heals itself. God embedded that capability in there. Okay? And if we get sick or we get injured, and we talk about acute diseases tonight, that is when our body needs treatment. We need somebody to take care of us. Okay? So, and then the second night, we talk about how to sustain this body. What kind of food we're supposed to be eating. The perfect fuel. And of course, we know that God doesn't just create us and leave us alone to fend for ourselves or what we are going to eat. God provided that. He gave us that, the herb-bearing seed and the fruit-bearing seed. And we outline it during what kind. So pretty much just like fruits, grains, nuts, legumes, and those are perfect and as the least possible modification. Meaning eat foods the way God packaged it. It's an insult to God to modify food so far away from He designed it. So, and I keep mentioning that if you look at the food and you can no longer see or you cannot recognize the ingredients, then that means that is highly processed, ultra processed, we call it. So we talk about that one. Focus on whole foods, plant-based diet. I like that word better than vegan. You know why? Because a lot of people, they may say they're vegetarian, they're vegan, but yes, they're all plant-based, but they're so highly processed. I know a lot of members that died of colon cancer because, yes, they're vegan, but they eat a lot of gluten foods and highly processed. And we talk about those veggie meats or substitute meat. Yes, the only thing that we free ourselves, or the only advantage of those, is that there's no cholesterol. There's no animal cholesterol. But it's very high in sodium, and there's no micronutrients in them. There's no more fiber in those. Okay, so that's why they're very unhealthy. The only thing is that, yes, you're free. You are reducing your risk of getting heart disease, but you are increasing your risk of getting cancer and another chronic disease. So the best way to eat is whole foods, plant-based diet. Whole foods, plant-based diet. So last night we talked about health suppressors. Now again, perfect body, there's perfect fuel. Now, if, however, that you start eating carelessly, and you are going to put something in your body that are not whole foods, plant-based variety, then instead of them becoming health promoters, it would become health suppressors. That is, where our body would start to, the vigor of our body starts to get depleted. And so eventually we will succumb to diseases, which we are going to discuss tonight. So we talk about food factories. Remember now, there is no kitchen in Eden. There's none. Because Adam and Eve would just walk around. There's some fruits hanging. When they're hungry, we just grab one. Okay? That's it. That's it. Now, what happened when industrialization entered into our society, a lot of foods are now farmed or manufactured, that they break down the ingredients, the components of the food, and make something out of it. So food factories, they're food modification, processing, and refining. So that's why I advise avoid any highly processed and refined foods, especially white bread, white rice. You have to realize now that yes, they are plant foods, but the nutrients and the fiber is no longer there. Okay, so you have to avoid that one. We talk about added sugar. The body needs sugar to operate. We need glucose. But the added sugar that we have to be concerned of. Added sugar are sugar that you scoop out or already in its granulated form. Those are the added sugar. The pure sugar that the body recognizes are those that are in fruits or vegetables. Are there vegetables that you know that are sweet? Huh? Sweet potatoes, yeah, it says that, okay? So anything when the sugar in the body that recognize well, the sugar that the body recognize, are the sugar that are in the food, not the one that you add on to. So the added sugar, you have to avoid that as much as we can. We talk about GMO, meaning right now a lot of foods are genetically altered. They're modified. And can you imagine, we talk about that some plants, they add human genes onto it. Can you imagine that? So it is a big insult. When God created everything, first day, second day, third day, fourth day, He always described it as what? Good and very good. Meaning, if God created something, it is perfect. It doesn't need to be changed. It doesn't need to be altered. But sadly, right now, it is like the pride of humanity. Because of technology, we believe that we can change natural things. So that is GMO. They are altering the genes of plants. They say so that they can produce more, they can supply more food to increasing population. But sadly, yes, they can mass produce this food, but it's also causing a lot of health issues. Allergic reaction to things, and also some chronic diseases. So we have to avoid, and sadly, back in the United States, a lot of people wanted the companies to label the foods as GMO, but they lost in court. The companies won that no labeling. The good thing, there are some companies that they took it upon themselves of labeling their own food saying non-GMO. So as much as possible, if you buy foods, look at the labels, and some of them would say non-GMO, and focus on those kind of foods. We talk about additives, preservatives. I encourage you to read the labels. If you buy foods that has ingredients in them, read them. It should be the best packaged food. When it says, if you want to buy corn in a can, the ingredients should be just corn, okay? So if you have so many added ingredients in there, has a lot of acronyms or abbreviations, and long words that you cannot pronounce, then you start questioning it. And it's most likely unhealthy. So if I buy a peanut butter, for example, the ingredients is just peanuts. That's it. If there's something added to it, then you start questioning it. And if I have other choices, then I will not pick it. Okay? All right, dairy, we talk about it. Dairy products or milk products are species specific. What does it mean? Cow milks are only for baby cows, all right? Goat's milk is for baby goats. So in other words, we have no business at all as human beings to drink cow's milk. Because again, if you drink cow's now, if you are already eating table food, that means you cannot break down the casein in milk, the protein in milk, and the lactose and the galactose of milk. You cannot break them down because you do no longer have an enzyme to break them down. Okay? So, milk and milk products, the dairy, the cheese especially, we should not eat cheese at all. It stays up to 12 hours in your system, and the body doesn't recognize it as food at all. You have to realize that cheese are food that the bacteria refuse to eat because there are absolutely zero nutrients in them. In fact, there's a lot of toxin in them. All right? So, only if you start eating foods with this ingredients under this category that your health will be suppressed. Otherwise, if you start out the first day that we're talking about, this perfect body that God designed, and if we eat the perfect fuel that He designed, and we avoid all these things, and then we can claim God's promise that none of the diseases of this world we can contact with. So I have, let me just share with you, I share with you what kind of food I usually eat, where I normally eat Monday to Friday. There's one of them. I was looking for some pictures, but this is my week's supply of food. This is my week's supply of food, and I told you that it's only like $50 a week. $50 a week. And during, depending on the seasonal, I have more fruits. I usually have at least 8 to 10 different kinds of fruits in my smoothies. That much as possible. I have different colors of them. If you count them, they have at least 5 colors. How many colors again? 5, at least 5 different colors in that. And so my wife does, we chop it off, put it in and even the milk, the soy milk, we make our own ourselves. We make them our own. So no foreign ingredients at all. And if we cannot buy organic, we soak them with vinegar or lemon or salt. So just to neutralize the pesticides that may have been sprayed with. So this, and that's how it would look. I have 2 of them. I have a jar now. I'm also trying as much as possible. Do not use plastic. The bisphenol H, BPH in them. So this is when I first started out, I used that. I have a glass jar now. So I have 2 of them throughout the day. And then at night, this is how I would eat my salad. There's a big bowl of salad. And again, if you count all the colors are in there, that is when I would add all my nuts and seeds. I have all, this is like a complete food. You have everything. And for my B12, I would sprinkle the nutritional yeast on top of it. And for my dressing, do not use, I discourage you to use commercial dressing. You make your own. I use either lime or lemon. And with your nutrition, even with just lime or lemon on top of it, with your nutritional yeast, is very tasty already. Besides, God, the way God designed all this food is meant to be enjoyed. You're supposed to taste. If you are eating whatever type of food you have, you're supposed to taste it. You're supposed to, when you chew it, you're supposed to identify, oh, that's the celery. Oh, that's the tomato. You know, you're supposed to appreciate what God has created for you. You're supposed to identify them. Now, sadly, right now, when they have the food that's available out there in the market, all they have, the taste, what that's prominent is the sweetness to it and the fatness to it. And you can no longer recognize in your taste buds what kind of fruit or nuts or vegetable it is. Isn't that right? So you should be able to, when you eat it, and also how many times you're supposed to chew your food? Okay, 30 something. All right? So in other words, by the time, because a lot of people, sadly, because right now the kind of food, like people would eat French fries or burger, for example, all they wanted to taste, because they wanted to eat as much as they can. They took a bite, they feel they taste that fat in their mouth, and they want to swallow it right away because they wanted to take another bite. But when you eat something like this, when you sip something like this, you taste every single ingredients. You chew it up to at least minimum of 30, and by then it is already like liquefied really good. When you swallow it, and the body is happy, the stomach's happy to receive it, and they say this is the real kind of food. If you eat French fries, if you eat cheese, the body will take it, and the stomach will take it, and they said, okay, we're waiting for the food now. And you keep swallowing cheese and French fries and burger and all those meat, and the stomach is still waiting. All right, we're filling up here, but where's the food? Because it doesn't know. That's why after you eat a big meal, you are very sluggish, because your energy is concentrated into digesting that food that's foreign to the body. Get this right here, your energy will not deplete after you eat it, because it's it's not foreign to the body. You know what it is? If it's foreign, any foreign substance in the body, what does the body do? It would attack it because it's foreign. It's not it doesn't recognize it. So, and this is just some of the things that my wife made. This is quinoa salad, right there, and that's a quinoa. That is a kale chip right there. This is just some of the stuff she made. And if I eat my breakfast on Sunday. I only eat cooked foods on the weekend. Potlucks on Saturday, and then on Sunday, and my wife would prepare my breakfast like this. That is a scrambled tofu, looks like a scrambled egg, and there's a buckwheat pancake, no eggs, and no sugar either. The only sweetener is ripe banana, and the soy milk right there. And I think this is spinach. I told you that I said that if you eat spinach, eat it by itself, not with the other greens, because spinach has a lot of phytates in them. So it will monopolize the other greens. And this is the very last, before she came over this time, this is the last Sabbath potluck that she brought to the church. And I really praise God that our church potluck now has evolved and has now, because we have health lecture every month, used to be twice a month, and so a lot of the church members has really adopted into eating really healthy, into whole foods, plant-based eating. So, that's sort of and you mentioned about cravings last night. So I went to look for all my images, and I found this one. When you crave, for example, for chocolate, your body is depleted of magnesium. It needs magnesium. And so a lot of people, when they have that type of craving, they think of chocolate. Instead, you should eat nuts, seeds, and vegetables and fruits. Again, whole foods, plant-based. Instead of grabbing for some chocolate, eat a lot of nuts. I would recommend nuts. And if you're craving for sweets or sugary, that means your body is in need of minerals: chromium, carron, phosphorus, sulfur, and tryptophan. That's one. So your body is depleted of that, so you crave for sweets. So again, whole foods, plant-based. There's really just one answer to every single thing. Okay? Just eat whole foods, plant-based diet. So you have all these cravings. If you're craving for breads or pasta, your body is in need of nitrogen, more nitrogen. And the answer is leafy vegetables, all that green scale colors. And if you're craving for oily foods, you want this fatty taste, fat foods, your body is depleted of calcium, and you focus on those dark green vegetables. For salty foods, if you are craving for salty foods, your body needs chloride and silicon. And again, that's when you eat a lot of nuts and seeds. And in other words, there's really one answer to everything, to the problem that we have in our health today. It just go to what God had designed. And nobody ever craves something that is good for you, right? And you don't wake up in the evening and so I'm craving for a banana, or I'm craving for a broccoli, I'm craving for some natural foods. We crave for something that is highly processed because we have manipulated our taste buds. And our taste bud is so distorted that it doesn't look for the natural foods, but it looks for the unnatural foods. So tonight, and again, a lot of you have noticed that that I have a hyphenate. I put a hyphenate dash in there. This is because what happened is, what is ease? What does the word ease means? You are now at ease. You are healthy. You're comfortable. You are content. You are at ease. Now, what happened if you don't feel good? You're not at ease anymore. So this ease, you are diseased. Okay, that's what happened. And this point of that, this is the fourth in our series. Again, if you just maintain, if you just perfectly follow and respect our body, being wonderfully made, and feed it with a perfect fuel, avoid the ones we talked about last night, we should not get to this point. But sadly, we do. So we will discuss it a little bit tonight. So, and we mentioned this earlier. This is in Exodus 15:26. If you listen, that's the key word. If you listen. And that's the problem with human beings. We don't know how to listen. We don't know how to listen, meaning obeying. So God said, if you listen carefully to the voice of the Lord, and what did He promise? I will not bring you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians. But of course, that Egyptians represent the world, right? The diseases of the world, you're not supposed to get them. But you know what? By virtue of being a Seventh-day Adventist, if you follow the health laws in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, by just following to eat the clean foods, even if you eat meat or fish, according to the Leviticus 11, Deuteronomy 14, you outlive the other religious group or the world. You already have that advantage. That's an Adventist advantage if you follow the clean eating habits. But sadly right now, just like Mrs. White said, that time will come that like milk and eggs and fish and meats are no longer safe to eat. And when do you think will that be? That is now. Okay? That is now. Besides, the plan, it is not part of God's original plan for us to eat the foods or the flesh that He prescribed in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. It's not part of His original plan. You know why? Because when He took the people, the Israelites, out of Egypt, what did He feed them with? Manna, which is non-flesh. Because it was just a temporary arrangement for us to eat flesh. When besides, Mrs. White made a suggestion that, hey, we are not going to be here forever. He allowed flesh food to be eaten because the vegetation was destroyed. That's why He anticipated that. So He told Noah to bring how many of the clean animals? 7 of them, and only a pair of the unclean one, because He anticipated there's no more vegetation, so He will allow His people to eat meat. But again, a temporary arrangement. So right now, while we are waiting, while we are getting close to Jesus coming, we are now to transition ourselves back to the diet, the Edenic diet. Because what do you think? Are we going to eat fish in heaven? No. We're not going to, because animals were created as our companion, not as our food. All right? In fact, the animals themselves were vegetarians. The grass of the fields are their food. And sadly, after sin, we start looking at the animals instead of looking at the food that God prescribed. we are now eating animals. So the animals starting to fight back, and it will attack us, okay, if we provoke them. So what is disease? Pretty much is a disordered, incorrectly functioning organ. It's malfunction. You know, we talk about the harmony inside our body, the symphony of the organs that work side by side together, works perfectly. It is now disordered. It is now diseased. Okay? So, what is the effect? Usually it is caused by infection, poisons. You know, the wrong food that you put in is actually poison to the body because the body cannot use it. It depletes the energy of the body. Nutritional deficiency, imbalance, toxicity. Also, of course, right now our world is contaminated. We have now that's unfavorable environmental factors. So, according to World Health Organization, there is now 12,420 distinguishable diseases. 12,000 diseases that they identified. Remember now how many bodies we have? How many parts of our body? A lot of body parts, but one. In other words, you cannot really, if you eat the right kind of foods, it will not just heal diabetes, heart disease, or whatever diseases. It heals them all. It heals them all. But in our medical, the conventional medicine, they identify every single symptoms and then create a disease category with it. And there's two types of diseases. They're acute and chronic. Acute is either both rapid onset or short course. This is like if your flu is considered acute. It doesn't last long. And of course, we have the very obvious one. If you break your toe or finger or your leg, those are acute or emergency medical needs that your body needs. So acute disease, and the other one is chronic disease. Chronic disease, diseases of long duration, and is usually developed over time. Chronic disease are heart disease, stroke, cancer, chronic respiratory, and diabetes. The death and diseases chronic diseases account up to from 63%, actually up to 80% of the deaths that's occurring today. Can you imagine those deaths, 63% up to 80%? It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen, meaning that 80% of the people that died up to now should have been still living today. They are unnecessary deaths. Unnecessary. So out of the 36 million people who died from chronic disease in 2008, 9 million were under 60 years old. Can you imagine that? 9 million people died prematurely. They're under 60 years old. They're not supposed to have it. More than half of the people living in the U.S. now have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. Now, if any of us that are older than 10 years old here, that means you already have heart disease. And whatever you do now to avoid it, you're not avoiding it, you are just trying to slow it down or reverse it. Because the disease process of chronic health condition starts at an early age if you are feeding your kids with animal flesh. Because even with just one meal, if you eat animal food, animal flesh, it will injure the endothelium, the lining of your artery. You know what happens if you get scratched? The body will heal it, right? And you get scarring in it. If your artery is scarred, it thickens. When it thickens, it will trap the cholesterol, the animal cholesterol. And by the way, there is cholesterol only comes from animal. There is no cholesterol from plant foods, okay? And brothers, I'm sorry, you mentioned something about mushrooms having cholesterol. There's no cholesterol in mushrooms. Mushroom is not from the animal kingdom. It's still considered on the plant kingdom because it feeds off from dead trees or from plants. You know what it is? the soil in the forest, the plants, they live off on dried leaves or what do you call that? When you have the soil, the soil is actually all those composted or decomposed plants. Okay, so everything live off from that. So mushrooms are very healthy food variety that actually has a lot of component and in there that anti-cancer. And so for ladies, I highly recommend them to prevent the proliferation of breast cancer, and for men to prevent proliferation of cancerous cells in your prostate. So mushroom, and in fact, one of the recommendations to prevent chronic disease, heart disease, and cancer, and you know that acronym G-BOMBS, G for greens, B is for beans, O for onions, M for mushrooms, and then what's the next one? B for berries, and S for seeds or nuts. So every day you should include those in your diet. Include this as much as possible. And by the way, mushroom is the only plant that has vitamin D in them. You can even increase the vitamin D in mushrooms by even subjecting them to a light bulb, any type of light. And of course, the best one is you subject them to the sun. It would absorb more vitamin D. All right. Chronic health conditions are 7 out of 10 deaths in America. That's unimaginable. 75% of our nation's healthcare spending, 83% of American workers have chronic health conditions, and it amounts to $153 billion a year in lost productivity. That's a lot of money lost because a lot of people call in sick when they don't feel good. $153 billion lost. $1 trillion each year lost in economic activity because people get sick because of what they're eating. That's why big companies right now, like Google, they invited lecturers, those that promote health, like me. They would have lectures. And when I was stationed here in Okinawa at the U.S. Naval Hospital at Camp Lister, I was the Assistant Health Promotion Director. So we go to schools, we go to offices, and to give them lecture about health. Because companies right now are realizing that save a lot of money by making or keeping their people healthy. So they allow them, they give them time off or time during work to attend health seminars to take care of their bodies. And the Centers for Disease Control said this is unacceptable. It said it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be. They realize it now. This is the government institution, CDC, Centers for Disease Control. They're saying that this is not supposed to be like this. And so we talk about, the next thing that I would like to talk about is obesity. And again, that is something, you know why people, they get obese? Because most of the food that they're eating, the body cannot use. It will store it for future use. You know it is. I mean, the body, when they have something in excess, they say, oh, I'm going to save this for the rainy day. But the rainy day never comes. There's always an abundance of wrong food. You know, in countries that has no food, we don't have much choice. We just eat whatever we can. It's like I shared with you, I grew up in the barrio in the Philippines. When there's corn season, we eat corn. When there's sweet potato season, we eat sweet potato mostly. So it's seasonal. But here in the United States, and here, of course, is that we have a lot of choices. And guess what? If we have a lot of choices of foods, what do we do normally pick? We pick the unhealthy ones. We pick the tasty ones because we are now, enslaved by our taste buds. Taste buds. Obesity. And what happened? The risk of obesity has the risk of disease as arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, all of this. So obesity is like a catalyst. it is like a vehicle or for people to get sick. So when you are obese, you are most likely going to have all these other chronic diseases. And the problem is, of obesity, eating too much and doing too little. Okay, we're supposed to only eat what your body needs according to the activity that you're engaging. In fact, that telomeres that we're talking about, the week of life, the telomeres, it actually speed up if you take in especially a lot of protein, it will shorten it. And also by putting in a lot of calories in our body. In fact, there's some studies that showed that the less you eat, the slower your telomere the shortening of the telomere. So in fact, and I told my wife, I know this is probably a lot of you would consider the extreme. I've been doing it now for several weeks when my wife was gone, and I was also fasting and praying, Brother Marco, for this event. And so I would only eat 6 days a week. And I was not eating from sunset Friday until sunset Saturday. And my body has adjusted to it. Because of course, the first time who here have experienced fasting? Okay? So the first time around that you do it, of course, you get hungry, your body would crave for food. But you drink a lot of water, just drink water. I still drink water throughout. And what happened is, and I've been looking into the benefits of fasting. So that's another lecture anyway. But it is actually that has scientifically proven that has nutritional benefit or health benefits for the body. It is not just for religious reason. There's actually a scientific reason, because especially those eating flesh foods, their body needs time to detoxify. Okay, if you stop eating food, even just for 1 day, and they're actually just some extreme group. They do only 2 days and then off 1 day, 2 days off 1 day. The fast and every 3 days they fast every 3 days. But again, it's detoxification. It detoxifies the body. It stops by not putting in any more of those toxic foods into their body. But anyway, obesity happened because we eat a lot, but then we move so little. And they call it fat gene. Usually, parents that have fat kids parents that are fat usually have fat kids. They call it fat genes. But we talk about that. It does not that obesity. It's due to nurture more than nature. It doesn't run in the family. Just like I mentioned, it doesn't run in the family. It is because nobody runs in the family. That's what happened of obesity. It is nurture more than nature. Okay. And we talk, and I mentioned it, that genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. I'm not sure if Dr. Oz the original of that term, but I heard that before, even before Dr. Oz have said that. Sedentary lifestyle, that's what it is. Fast food addictions, cupboards full of junk food, lack of portion control, too few vegetables. These are what we have to thank for obesity. In other words, it is your fault. It is not your parents' fault that you're obese. It is your fault. So sedentary lifestyles and eating the wrong kind of foods and lack of the right kind of foods. So it's been proven now many times, thousands and thousands of nutritional research out there, that plant-based diet is just the healthiest diet out there. So let's talk about dietary cholesterol intake. It's only found in animals, was associated with living a significantly shorter lives. So because our body doesn't need cholesterol through our food, we don't need to eat any foods that have cholesterol. You know why? Because the body produces them. Our liver will produce them. We need cholesterol but we just need to supply them. What kind of fats are we supposed to supply the liver? It is through nuts, the good fats. The nuts, your seeds, the avocados or the fruits out there. And so it is not, so those are the ones we're supposed to eat so that the body can produce the cholesterol that it needs. So all of this, they found out that any dietary cholesterol, they found out that it is associated with living a significantly shorter life. However, fiber, where can you find fiber? Only from plants. There's no fiber on flesh. So it is associated with living a significantly longer life. Remember I showed you that cartoon? A lot of people, when they find out that you're vegetarian, they would always ask, where'd you get your protein? They worry so much about protein. They didn't realize that because of too much protein, we're living shorter. We're having shorter lives. The right question should be, where do you get your fiber? Because fiber is associated with longer life. So animal cholesterol associated with shorter life. Fiber is associated with longer lives. So let's look at the top killers. Heart disease is the number one. And Dr. Ornish has shown that it can actually be reversed with just vegan diet, or more appropriately, it's whole foods, plant-based diet. It can be reversed. Flesh foods clog the artery. Whole foods, plant-based, would clear the artery. The nitric oxide in plants is like a roto-rooter of your artery. It would clean up the plaque. It would clean up the plaque. And they've proven that many times, heart disease. And not only that, that's very, you cannot read it. The TMAO, it's produced when you eat a lot of meat. And they found out that's the one really, the TMAO, that's a very difficult word to pronounce, but what they found out, that anybody who would eat flesh foods has a lot of that compound in their system. And almost everybody who have heart disease and cancer have high level of TMAO. But if you are a vegetarian or vegan, none of those compounds is found in your, it's usually found in your colon area. So no TMAO is found on those that are vegetarians or vegans. That's why the whole foods plant-based eaters have less incidence of heart disease or cancer and other chronic diseases. So carnitine, especially one of the protein or the compound in meat, are the cause, and especially choline and carnitine. And you know where has the highest content of choline? Plant foods has choline in them, but the highest content of choline, which cause this TMAO, are eggs. So just like I said, eggs are not meant to be eaten, it's meant to be hatched. All right? So because it has a high content of choline, those people that eat a lot of eggs has a high content of TMAO in their guts. So if you want to cross out the possibility of getting heart disease and cancer, try to get rid of eggs. Plus, especially, how do people usually eat them? They fry them. And frying is the worst way to prepare food. You already have the wrong food in your hand, plus you fry them. Okay, so you're just making it doubly worse. So that TMAO, number 2 killers, cancer. They found out again that blood streams of men eating vegan were nearly 8 times the cancer stopping power. Now, we all have cancer cells in our body. We have cells in our body that's prone or has the propensity or the inclination of becoming cancerous. They would only wake up if you feed them its favorite food, which are animal flesh and highly processed sugar or highly processed foods. So if you avoid any of those, it's a good possibility that you prevent the proliferation of cancer cells, or even reverse the cancer that you already have. It can be reversed. And the sad thing about it, the conventional medicine will tell you when you have cancer, that's it. You are like as if you are scheduled for execution. That's it for you. It's the worst thing in the world that could happen. And what do they usually do? Subject you to chemotherapy or radiation therapy. And guess what? Chemotherapy especially, what they found out on research, it only works, if it does work, 2% success rate. Because it's just going to come back again. And back to heart disease, people, they may open up your chest, you have a bypass or things like that. And guess what? If there's no lifestyle change, the person who has heart attack before will get it again. And they need to be opened up again. It is lifestyle change. You know, just like my coworker. She's so excited to adopt, I prescribed her a diet program. She's so excited. All right, Rizzo, so I can party again. She's so excited to go through it so that the diabetes can be reversed so she can party again. I said, no. This is lifestyle. This is for life. You are going to eat this way now because it's just going to come back again. So the same thing with cancer. Women also can boost their defense against breast cancer even with just as short as 2 weeks. Can you imagine that? Eating the right kind of food. 2 weeks on a plant-based diet. This is, and you know what? This is something that we praise God for, being Seventh-day Adventist. Every single nutrition research studies out there, they always point out to the Seventh-day Adventist. And also to the Okinawans. Because Okinawans, in their earlier, right now, however, of the Okinawans before fast foods. Before there was fast foods here on the island, the Okinawans has the one of the blue zone. Okay, Okinawa, Sardinia, and Italy, and the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda especially. Okay, they have the most centenarians in there because the Okinawan diet consists primarily of plant-based foods. They eat occasional pork and fish, but mostly a lot of fruits, and they're engaged a lot in a lot of physical work. That's why they're one of the longest living people in the world. Loma Linda, okay, they tested, again, just 2 weeks. Isn't that amazing? Just 2 weeks. That's what the body can do. It's just an amazing machine. Provide it with the right kind of food, and it will do its wonders. It's amazing. Because the culprit, animal protein that increases the level of IGF-1, the insulin growth factor. As an adult, we don't need all those growth hormones anymore. But meat, animal protein, would increase that level of IGF-1. That's why it would cause cancerous cells to grow. And again, it only comes from animal flesh, and the plant foods would reverse the process. Number 3, even respiratory diseases or respiratory illness can be remedied by plant foods. And they have proven that in some studies as well. Stroke is an artery problem. Just like what I said, that your artery, the endothelium, will get injured, the plaque will develop, it would occlude the artery. If it's close to the heart, you get stroke, you get heart attack. If it's right here by your neck area, and it will cause a stroke. Before we started eating really healthy. My wife, she went on a mission trip to the Philippines. Was that 2004, God? But she had, we have one of our team had a Doppler. So they measured the carotid artery, and she's got plaque in there. She get a lot of headaches. After we started eating healthy, my coworker, the ultrasound tech, our good friend, she just said, come on, Merle, you just try it. So she tried it. It opened up, and it said, wow, you have an artery as healthy as a 20-year-old. Okay, it opened up. That plaque was no longer there. That's how powerful plant foods is. And you can even make a test by using Doppler as well. A person before eating foods with flesh, with fatty foods, animal foods, they would measure the flow of the blood by just constricting the arm right here. Okay, and then constricting it right there, and they would put a Doppler by your artery, release the rubber that constrict it, and they would measure the blood flow. Okay, now the subject, you would allow them to eat a burger, for example, or hot dog, something like that. 30 minutes later, they would measure it again, and guess what? It's a significant decrease in blood flow, but just only a few minutes after eating, because when you eat flesh foods, it almost paralyzes your artery. Flesh foods and highly processed foods, sugary drinks, the soda, it has the same effect. It has the same effect. So, and again, the answer to this, to reverse or to prevent, whole foods, plant-based diet, potassium-rich foods especially. It's the dark green leafy vegetables. That's why, and the fruit smoothie that me and my wife drinks every day, collard greens, parsley, and kale. Those are very, very, very rich in potassium and many other nutrients in them. Beans and dates as well. Even Alzheimer's, how it is one of the sad things that's going on right now in our adult population is that they are still living, but they don't recognize their family anymore. That is a very sad thing. And it can be, and what they found out, Alzheimer's happened to those who eat meat, including chicken and fish, are 3 times more likely to become demented compared to long-term vegetarians. So if you wanted to avoid any of these old folks' diseases, try to focus on whole foods, plant-based. Now, you're seeing the trend here, right? You're seeing the trend. There's already just one answer to all of this. Alzheimer's. And you know that spice saffron? Have you heard of that spice saffron? It even beat out placebo and work as well as a leading Alzheimer's drug. Again, plant-based diet. Most of the diseases that we're suffering is because of it affected the circulation. Remember I told you that 60,000 miles of arteries and veins in our system needs to be wide open, because that is where all the nutrients is being transported throughout the body. So if it gets interrupted, and even Alzheimer's, the brain diseases that we're suffering is because of poor circulation. There's no nutrients. There's no oxygen going into there. It's interrupted. And just as easy as, again, eating the right kind of foods to prevent them. Diabetes. Okay, diabetes. Plant-based diets help prevent, treat, and even reverse type 2 diabetes. And how many times you heard people saying that taking medication, and when I have patients that where we always have a questionnaire asking question, do you have diabetes? And it would say yes. And what kind of medication? They would pull out a bag of medications, prescriptions in them. And I would ask them, how long have you been taking them? Oh, I'm taking them for 15 to 20 years. And I said, what are they for then? You're supposed to take pills to treat it, right? And she says, no. The doctor said, this is just maintenance thing. And what are you maintaining? Maintaining your health or maintaining the disease? So what are those drugs maintaining then? The disease. And I said, what if I tell you that you can reverse it? I said, no. Diabetes cannot be reversed. That is a sad thing. That's what the conventional medicine is telling patients, which there is, for a fact, thousands and thousands of research studies out there that showed otherwise. It can be reversed. Vegans are, on average, about 30 pounds skinnier than meat eaters and appear to have just a fraction of the diabetes risk. Now, most of the time, if you're obese, more likely you become diabetic. But even if you're skinny, you could still be diabetic. Because again, probably your genetic makeup. And we have to realize now that the diet is just one component of health, right? You need to eat optimal diet, whole foods, plant-based. You still need to exercise, which we're going to be talking about next week. And then you also need enough rest, which we talked about a little bit last night. We need to eat. You need to sleep at least 7 hours for adults. Okay, we need to be sleep 2 hours before midnight, and try not to wake up before 4 o'clock in the morning, because your body is trying to repair itself, healing itself between midnight and 4 o'clock. So those are the three components of health to prevent or reverse diabetes or any other chronic diseases. Eat an optimal diet with whole foods. You need to exercise at least 30 minutes a day, and you need to sleep at least 7 hours a night between 12. Well, start sleeping at 10 o'clock up to 4 o'clock. Kidney failure, it can be prevented as well, because the reason for kidney malfunction is animal protein, animal fat, and cholesterol. Those are the cause of kidney. Even respiratory infection, fruit and vegetable consumption significantly boost one's protective immune response to vaccination, because, and again, on any other respiratory infection. Suicide, even mood, behavioral problems can be remedied through eating correctly. Because you know how it is, foods can affect your mood. You know that, right? Food equals mood. A lot of people would say when they eat their favorite foods, they feel they're happy. You have to realize now, and I asked a question, I don't know which night was that a lot of people, they try to eat a lot of, really healthy, but then one night a week, they say, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to go out, get a burger, or eat ice cream. Now, the question is, are you treating yourself? Is it a treat or a punishment? Because you are making your taste buds happy, but you are punishing the rest of the body. Okay, so we are enslaved by our taste buds. Another thing that is also that would cause diseases in our body, stress. And it's almost like a modern type of disease, because of the technology that we have, we are now living a fast-paced life. So we are subjected to stress. Now, we need a little bit of stress to boost our motivation. We need to be motivated. We need a little bit amount of stress. But stress, just like what it says, stress is actually an engineering terminology. When the building, for example, is applied a lot of weight to it, it will be a stress test whether it can withstand the pressure. But so stress, in medical term, is that when our body will just give in, it get to the point of it can no longer handle it. But can you imagine how God designed our body? It can take in so much abuse. But again, it comes to the point that it can no longer handle it, and it would say, that's it, I'm sorry, it's too much for me. That's why we feel so invincible when we are up to maybe in our mid-30s. We eat whatever we want, but then by mid-30s and up, the body would start saying, okay, I can no longer handle it. So whatever organs in your system that the weakest, then they will be the first to give in. Like if your pancreas is secreting too much insulin beyond its capacity, and it says, sorry, I can no longer handle it. So, and then it may give up making insulin anymore, or it can no longer keep up opening the cells so that the glucose or sugar can get in. So you become type 2 diabetic, or your cancer cells will multiply, you get cancer, and then your artery has occluded, and you get stroke. And all of this chronic diseases will develop by mid-30s and on. It's usually start right there in that age level. So stress, left unchecked, can contribute to many health problems, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. Okay, it's a part of the modern day what do you call that our body we are subjecting to. So what does it affect on the body? You had this constant headaches, muscle tension, chest pain, fatigue, change in sex drive, stomach upset, sleep problems. Now, if you have all these symptoms, you are under a lot of stress. It affects your mood, anxiety, restlessness, lack of motivation or focus, feeling overwhelmed, irritability or anger, sadness or depression. You are stressed. And what does it affect your behavior? You start overeat or undereat. You have angry outbursts. And then some people would get into drug or alcohol abuse, tobacco use, social withdrawal, and exercising less often. If you are experiencing all this, you are under a lot of stress. And it's very simple. 5 tips for relieving stress. Eat nutritious food. Okay, this one right here, this is the thing that I can grab. It says lean meats, but I suggest fresh fruits and a whole foods, plant-based diet. Exercise a lot, 7 hours of sleep, and organize yourself a little bit would help in your stress as well. Make a task list and mark each thing off as you go. We just have to organize a little bit. And drink lots of water. These are the things that number one thing, again, what I'm promoting, and I am like a plant-based nutrition coach, so that's what my focus is towards whole foods, plant-based diet. And we will talk about, can you imagine that 106,000 Americans every year die because of prescription. Not the abuse, but it is if you look at the top 15, and I'll show it to you later, that with this study, I got this one maybe 6 years ago. At that time, doctors, if you total all of the diseases that are caused by wrong prescription, doctors or hospitals rank as the 6th leading cause of death. This is like 6 years ago. And I'll show you later on that where is it ranked now. 106,000 people die every. Can you imagine that's equivalent to 56 jumbo jets? If you fill out the 747 airplane, it can, I think it can, the maximum passenger up to 600 something people. That is like 56 jumbo jets. Can you imagine? Think about what would the government do if they keep hearing that there's 56 plane crash every year. What do? They would investigate it and they change policies on they have aviation rules. They would modify them. But nobody's paying attention to this. 106,000. Because again, prescription medication kills people. So the pharmaceutical industry does not really kill you. Just like I told you. Metformin. People take it 15, 20 years or longer. They're still taking it. And then, just like I told my coworker, I said, you see our patients. Patient would walk in with in a wheelchair, amputated legs. You keep taking this metformin. As you age, you're going to start losing your toe, losing your leg. Here's what is metformin doing. It is normalizing the number. It is masking. Did we talk about symptoms? Symptoms are a way, our body's way of saying something's wrong inside. But then what are we doing with pills? We silence the symptoms. Okay, I have patients that have back problem, and they would say, thank God for pain medication. They cannot feel the pain, but the problem continue inside. And until that there's no more, the intervertebral disc is no longer there. It is now bone to bone. And because they cannot feel the pain because of the pills, they keep working. And what happened? They ended up having back surgery, which it could have been prevented. If they just tried to listen to the body, they have pain right here, you need to slow down. Okay? It does not create cures, they create customers. And we talk about weapons of mass destruction. And the U.S. targeted Iraq because of the suspected weapons of mass destruction. You know, and I'll show you the numbers, I'm getting ahead myself, that the deaths of the top 10 diseases, just the top 2 deaths, killers, heart disease and cancer, has more deaths compared to the deaths of the military deaths since the beginning, the civil war of the United States, up to now, including Iraq or Afghanistan war. There's more people dying of heart disease and cancer more than people dying in wars. All the wars that the United States ever fought. But where are their focus? People would have that demonstration because somebody died in Iraq. Of course, every death is tragic. We don't want anybody dying. They keep complaining of those people dying in Iraq. But nobody's saying anything about more people dying in our homes because of the kind of foods that we're eating. You know, the weapons of mass destruction. Now, these are the food industry. Okay, so you are really what you eat. You are what you eat. So there's something you can do about it. Something you can do about it. And I like this saying here, which is Wendell Berry. It says, people are fed by the food industry. People are fed by the food industry, which pays no attention to health, and are treated by the health industry, which pays no attention to food. This is a deadly collaboration. You know, the food industry is making it sick, which make the pharmaceutical industry happy. All right, so 86% of all death care spending in 2010 for people with chronic disease. 86% of the medical bills. Total cost for heart disease, $315 billion. Cancer cost, $157 billion. Diabetic cost, $245 billion. And arthritis condition, $128 billion. Obesity, $147 billion. And total cost of chronic diseases, $992.4 billion. So what do you think? If you want to be healthy, do you think the healthcare industry would give those up? They're making this money every year. So what do you think? Do they want you to be healthy? So that's where we're going. So your health is your own responsibility. You cannot entrust it to anybody, not to your doctors. Because they even said, one doctor even said, if you wanted to find out about proper nutrition or healthy diet or healthy lifestyle, don't ask your doctors. They are trained differently. It's not their training. Their training is to study your human anatomy for 8 years. But you know how many hours they have as far as nutrition is concerned? Maybe 4 hours. For the whole time that they're in school. They don't know anything about preventive medicine. You know, 900.2 billion, if you look at them, the whole healthcare industry is $4.6 trillion, and it will double up in 2020. $4.6 trillion. If you look at the big companies, they're not even making $1 trillion. The biggest one is Walmart. Their annual revenue is $482 billion. But how much was the healthcare industry? $900 billion. So they're not going to give it up. So you are on your own. We are on our own. If you want to be healthy, you are on your own. You cannot entrust your health to somebody else. Okay? So Big Pharma is controlling your health care. And can you imagine this? One medication, $89,000 a year. One medication. That's really sad. And the food industry, do you think they're going to give up their industry as well? They spend $4.6 billion in advertising to make you eat their food. So who influences on what goes on your plate? This company right here. They spend $14.9 billion in advertising to make you eat their food. Okay? So the key to a healthy eating, avoid any food that has a TV commercial. Can you imagine? Do you think she eats that kind of food? Okay? So packaged food industry is $1.6 trillion. So just like what I said, if it's packaged already, they're not healthy for you. All right, so very quickly. It turns out a more plant-based diet may help prevent, treat, or reverse every single one of our 15 leading causes of disease. The answer to all of this, as simple as whole foods plant-based diet. Look at this. This is the top 5. $1.2 million, deaths. All right, coronary heart disease, lung disease, all of that. Number 3, you know what's iatrogenic cause? You know what that is? Doctors, hospitals. This is now the latest one. The one I showed you earlier, the 6 leading cause. This is the latest one. Number 3 cause of death. But who's questioning them? Okay? And the other 6, the next 6 right here. Oops, what I did. That's the top 5. The next 6 and the next 5 infections, diabetes right there, and kidney disease, and total of 1,175,000 deaths. And all of this can be reversed, can be prevented. And it said there is only one unifying diet that may help prevent, arrest, or even reverse each of these killers. Unlike with medication, there isn't one kind of diet for optimal liver function and a different diet to improve our kidneys. Remember all the drugs? They have drugs for everything. Out of those 12,000 diseases, they have drugs for every single one of them. And you know, to reverse all of them, there's only one. There's not one that's so when people would ask me during my seminars, saying, Rizzo, what would be good? What kind of food for diabetes? What kind of food for cancer? What kind of food for heart disease? And I said, well, there's only one answer to all of them. Whole foods, plant-based diet. Okay, and I'm getting ahead of myself. The same diet that helps prevent cancer just so happens to be the same diet that may help prevent type 2 diabetes and every other cause of death on the top 15 list. And what are they? Unlike drugs, they are, of course, whole foods, plant-based diet. Very simple, brothers and sisters. It's just very, very simple. So the more you fill up on healthy foods, the less space you'll have for unhealthy foods. In other words, if you cannot still avoid flesh foods, eat, and I think I put it down right here, make the salad as the main dish. Eat as much salad as you can, and then said, okay, I still have room, maybe eat a little piece of chicken, or maybe a little bit of fish. But avoid frying them, okay? Either you bake them or broil them or whatever else, avoid frying them. But my suggestion is whole foods, plant-based diet is the answer to all of the disease concern that we have. So raw food, especially I am a raw foodist during the week. And right now, if my wife's around, she's a really good cook. I can't help but eating some cooked foods on the weekend. And right now, I'm eating some cooked food since I got here as well. But raw foods is the best way because, again, eat the foods as God designed it. Okay? So that would be the end of our lecture for tonight. And again, there's so much we can talk about more. And I thank you so much for coming. This is the 4th night. And I'm praying that, as you can see, we're trying to build it up. We try to appreciate this body. We know now what kind of food, there's perfect prescription that God has prescribed us to keep this body healthy. We try to avoid those that suppress health. And we know now that even if you get sick, this kind of disease, there's hope for you. You can reverse it. And you don't even need drugs. Okay, it's proven now many times over. Thousands and thousands of research out there, it's had replicated the same result, that if you eat more of whole foods, plant-based diet, you are most likely to reverse or prevent any of those diseases. Well, thank you so much. And we don't have food tasting today anyway. Brother Marcus, sorry, I went over. And do we have time for questions? Okay, our next session would be Wednesday and Thursday next week. So we have 2 more. And yes, Jim.
Sees the Bibles and everything. Then last 2013, I had this, you know, the hemophilia. There's medicines for that people. And this challenge with the pharmaceutical company, so the pharmaceutical company developed and it solved the structure of hemophilia. And we saw the structure of hemophilia, how they behave with the company. But when I saw the paper, and it's from the big company, but there's no medicines. They cannot create the medicine because they don't block them. It's only in the data bank that this is the form of the virus, this is the form of something else, but there's no medicine at all. And it's really, to be honest, it's wasting of money because they cannot create the medicine. Even the malaria, they know how to the infection of the malaria, there's no medicine for that. It's just only how they behave inside something.
Good. So, again, it's like I am skeptical giving money. Also, like, for example, companies that raising awareness or research for, like, for example, breast cancer or whatever organization like that. Because it's very simple. You don't need, they spend billions and billions of dollars on research studies. What they're researching for? The answer is there already since the beginning of time. And whatever our body has succumbed finally, whatever disease, because we got there because of what we've been doing in the past. All we have to do really is just to look back, what did we do in the past, and try to avoid them, what you've done in the past, try to avoid them. Now, if your body right now, just like a car, it's so out of tune, there's problems after problems with will happen. So we have to tune our body up. A lot of people know that before they wondered, they told me, how come I'm allergic to this before? I'm not allergic to this food. Right now, I'm allergic to it. That is because your body is out of tune. You're allergic to it because the body can no longer distinguish between what is right food molecule and what is the bad one. So it will attack. So that's why we have a lot of allergic. So allergic reactions pretty much because your body and also the gene expressions has been altered because your parents eat the wrong way before. So your genes has been become susceptible to some like in allergy products. Become allergic to something. So yeah, they keep doing some research studies, but they cannot find any cure because the drugs really doesn't cure. It's who does the healing? It is the body. We just have to provide it with the right material. Mm-hmm.
There's the cure actually is in the plant. We call it insulin plant. Mm-hmm. And now it's on the science that they have this researcher that they studied the plant. That plant is kind of like we can just put it inside the house, and then in order to get the insulin, you just chew it because your saliva, when you chew the leaves, the saliva and chewing it extract the leaves, the minerals or whatever it right up. If you have the 300 sugar, it will go down below to 100. Mm-hmm. We have problems just before about my mother because when the diabetes attacked, she's chewing. Mm-hmm. And then we just plant the plants. And then every day she just chew it, one leaves in the morning and the night. And she's okay.
And you know what works also? Is that a cup of orange juice. Because again, it normalizes the number, but they did cure it. It didn't, right? Now that's why I stopped here. My plan was, and I ran out of money also, I was become a naturopathic doctor. So I have my degree in alternative medicine. Because when you become a naturopathic doctor, you become a regular doctor, you can prescribe. But instead of medication, you prescribe whatever it is. But what I'm trying to push in my program now is that for us not to think about remedies. Because remedy, if there's some remedy, even if they're herbal remedies, it will enable people. Meaning, I can still eat whatever I want. oh, because I have this herb anyway, right? I don't want you to think like that. If you focus on eating correctly, you will not need any remedies. See what I'm saying? So eat correctly, whole foods, plant-based diet, the way God designed plants as it is. Eat it as close to its original form. You don't need any of these remedies. But even if you have that plant, sister, okay, your blood sugar went up, what caused it? That plant, you put it in your mouth, it's just fixing the symptoms. The blood sugar went up. That is the symptoms. That's not the disease. Okay? What's causing that blood sugar to rise up? Okay? So, yes, if you have already been sick, remedy may help, but you still have to do your part. The naturopathic doctor may prescribe you some natural medicine, but you still have to eat healthy. Because if you just take that remedy, it would cure the symptoms, but the problem would still be there. So the focus again, whole foods, plant-based diet, lifestyle, and that would be for life. Huh?
Fasting to detoxify the body, right? But you also mentioned about drinking when we're fasting. I've seen some people like drink certain kind of like lemon, water, cucumber, or something like that. What do you recommend as far as helping you detoxify the body as well?
Yeah, Brother Marco asked that question. I don't have that out there, and I did not specialize in that area. I actually started looking into it, and because I found out that I actually still have a lot of energy, even if I only eat 6 days a week, and I'm starting to look into it, and I have seen a lot of detoxification program in the past, and you can even Google online. And just again in our last lecture, I will be trying to share with you how to do research yourself, because there's a lot out there on the internet that you just put out by anybody, So I would like to share something with you how to best pick the right information and who is it from, So, but there are a lot out there, and I don't know. I don't recommend. Because what happened is, I told Brother Marco, if you have already a lot of toxins in your body, think about a jar, and I made that illustration earlier, that a jar filled that's contaminated water, right? Think about the jar. If you start pouring in clean water onto it, okay, you keep pouring clean water, what would happen to the water inside? It overflows, it clears the water up, right? So, in other words, this is my simple advice. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to go to all this detoxification program. Just stop eating the wrong foods. Start eating the right foods. And again, the body will heal itself. And then finally, it says, oh, this is the right kind of food I'm expecting. Keep eating the right kind of foods, and the body will get rid of everything. That's why, because fasting, this is what the body does. Because we keep putting in especially if you're not eating correctly, you keep putting the body, they keep filling your stomach with wrong foods. All right? Those are toxic foods. If you stop eating, you don't eat for 24 hours, what does the body do? Just thank God there's nothing else coming in, so it can focus cleaning itself up. It cleans itself up. Because it starts, but that's why a lot of people that when they fast, they start even getting sick, because those contaminated food that they have, the fat that they store, they have all those harmful toxin in there. When the body will try to burn it, they get sick. Okay, they get sick. But that's actually a good sign. That means the body is healing itself. All right? So, yeah, you can look into detoxification, but my simple answer would be just start eating correctly. Stop eating the wrong foods. You were going to say.
That's true. If we do the right thing, that's going to help. But then fasting can help the body also. Because the body gets a chance to rest, and it can start dealing with these toxins and things. And you can get over toxic sometimes if you're trying to detox too fast. So you got to not go any faster than your body can handle all of that. But water is really good too. And like you say, keep putting good, healthy water in. That's going to tend to flush it all out. And using water on the outside, like hot and cold treatments, like soaking in hot water and then cold water, it increases circulation. The hot water drives the water outward, cleansing all the outer cells in the body. The cold water drives it inward, cleansing all of the inner organs of the body as the blood goes in and the blood comes out. So all of that's increasing circulation. It's helping. So you just have to kind of pace yourself so you don't do it too fast. Because if you've got a bunch of toxic substances, you're going to overload your liver, overload your kidneys. You just got to take it slow, eating healthy, and bit by bit, using water, using hot, cold, using all of that. And then there's some other things that you can use too, like for instance, the black hull. The black walnut hulls is really good for getting rid of parasites and so forth. But, the fresher those are, the more powerful it is. But you can find some companies that are marketing some really, it seems to be pretty fresh products. We ordered some of it. Seems to have been helpful. But yeah, you can research. You can do a lot of research online and get some ideas. But the food cannot be overemphasized. And then fasting, and then water, and then hot and cold. We can keep it simple. It doesn't have to be really complicated at all.
So I started in 2008.
And I did not do any detoxification. And I believe, and then I lost 30 pounds. My migraine went away, my ulcer went away, my cholesterol went down, my blood pressure went up. I have really bad genes. Used to that after I retired, and my coworker said, Rizzo, because he knows I'm a Seventh Adventist, and he's not Adventist, but he knows that Adventists live a healthy lifestyle. And I was actually embarrassed. He told me, Rizzo, for a Seventh Adventist, you're very sickly. Because at that time, I eat chicken and fish. Although we don't eat beef at home. Even then, when the kids are growing up, we're actually vegetarian, but we buy cans, boxes and boxes of food from Loma Linda Market. We have that. And then we came to Okinawa. Only when we came to Okinawa that our kids started eating chicken. Because they seldomly eat fish, but my son never tasted beef. And he said he'd never want to eat a dead cow, So, we've been always vegetarian, but we've been eating, and that's why I weigh 30 more pounds, and my blood pressure is really bad. I did not do any detoxification, but I feel that what I'm doing right now is working. And my blood pressure is 110 over 70. Used to be 149 over 90 or 100. So that normalized. And of course, again, the optimal diet is one component. You need to exercise. So that's why Brother Marco saw me jogging the other day here, because I woke up now at midnight. So this morning I did the same thing. I went earlier and yesterday to the gym. You need to exercise because, again, the number one and one of the biggest benefit of exercise is detoxification. You have to realize the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. The lymphatic system, all the toxins in your intracellular waste products is only cleaned up by the lymphatic system. If you don't move, then it is stuck right there. That's why if you get sick, you have your lymph nodes would swell up because there are all the toxins collected, but it's not being excreted. So every time you move, you are dumping all those waste products into your circulatory system so that it can go out. So I enjoy exercise because it's my detoxification regimen. It cleans the body up when you exercise. All right, thank you so much. And we went over time.
We got a couple questions that we're actually already going to close out. I just want to raise thank God for Brother Rizzo. He talked about so much tonight, guys, and he just barely scratched the surface. He really did. And you don't have to take his word for it, because during the whole series, he's been talking about different references, books,
Mm-hmm.
China study.
Mm-hmm.
If you read that, it'll totally change your mind on how the food in these other industries, how much they control
Mm-hmm.
your lives and what you eat. If you watch the movie Forks Over Knives, it goes into a lot of detail about these things. If you read the book, How Not to Die, it talks about a lot of things that we've been discussing this whole time. So again, you don't have to take his word. You got other people who are non-inventors backing a lot of this stuff up. And oh, by the way, we got free literature, history of healing, a laws of health, and so on and so forth. We have a book, Vibrant Magazine, about healthy heart, healthy body. He said that was the #1 cure of those chronic diseases that we're talking about tonight. So again, you don't have to take a word, just look at the science, look at some good literature that's published out there, and it's free. It's free.
And you know why I am so convinced? Because, for example,